Hello, my friends. Welcome to a video about how to make your human design tapestry. My name is Elissa Meisenheimer, and I created this tapestry for myself as part of a personal development growth process I've been going through and creating based on my interactions with different modalities, including human design. And if you have ever had your human design chart run, or if you've never even had a reading and you would like to learn more about yourself through human design, but maybe you aren't ready to do a reading yet, this is a great activity that you can do on your own that costs $0. And you can run your human design chart through a variety of different websites for free. The one that I recommend is www.humdes, like human design, humdes.com. I like that website because not only can you run your human design chart, but you can run what they call composite charts, where you match your human design chart with another human design chart to see how your energies work together. They also have pentacharts, gene key interpretations of your human design chart, and a lot of explanation around human design and what different aspects of your chart mean. I'm not going to go into all of those details today, but I will share my website information at the end of this video, as well as in the description, so that you can get access to my website, where I do offer a very basic introductory human design reading so that you can decide whether or not human design is something that resonates with you. And if you decide that you would like to learn more and get a more in-depth and more expensive reading from some of the bigger experts out there, then I can help you decide whether or not that's right for you, as well as help recommend a couple of experts that I respect personally. I also offer business services that are based around your human design, and not only your human design, but just who you are as an individual. We create business solutions that are custom to you as a human being and your own personality, your own life circumstances. No cookie cutter solutions over here. So this is a fun introduction for you to get to know me a little bit better through my human design chart, as well as to see an example of how you can deep dive into your own human design chart in your own time in a way that will help integrate the information you're learning into who you understand yourself to be today, as well as in the future going forward. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dig in. This is my human design chart. You'll see on the right-hand side the gates that are defined in what they call the personality or the conscious side of your chart. And so these gates identify the aspects of my chart that are defined that I am conscious of. So these are traits, these are gifts and talents that I probably know about myself in one way or another. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see the design gates, which are also known as the unconscious gates. And these are gifts and talents and traits about myself that I'm not likely conscious of. That you, however, if you meet me, these would be super obvious to you. But if you asked me if I thought that I embodied any of these traits, I would be like, no, definitely not. That's somebody else. And so that just shows you partially the complexity of human design and why it's such a helpful psychological tool. Because we can't know every aspect of ourselves, especially the parts of us that we don't realize we do, and or that we would outwardly deny that are true, but that our loved ones know are true about us. The other thing about this chart is it will tell you what your energy type is. And my energy type is considered a manifestor energy type because I have a defined throat center, which is the blue shape that you see here. And the fact that I do not have a defined sacral center, which is the circle here that's white. If I did have a defined sacral as well as a throat, then I would be considered a manifesting generator. But because I don't have my sacral defined, that makes me a manifestor. I also have several defined channels, and channels are completed by two gates that connect each other. So for example, I have channel 1762. If I only had gate 17 colored in, but I didn't have 62 colored in, 17 would be considered a hanging gate, whereas because both the 17 and the 62 are colored in, that means that I do have a channel of 1762. And effectively what a channel does is it defines the centers. So because I have the 1762 channel, I therefore also have my ajna center, which is the green upside down arrow defined, as well as my throat center, which is the blue shape here. The other channels that I have defined are my 1648. And because it's red, that means it's an unconscious channel, whereas the 1762 channel that's defined is a conscious channel because it's in black. Other channels that I have defined are 4426, which is an undefined, an unconscious defined channel, and it activates my heart or ego center, also known as the will center, as well as my spleen over here. And my spleen is also activated by the 1648 channel that connects the spleen to the throat. And then I also have 1858 channel that connects my spleen to my root center, which is the defined square at the bottom of the chart. So I have a lot of channels. It's not a competition to have more channels or less channels. It simply means that I have a lot of definition in my chart, and I have a consistent access to certain energies more consistently than someone who doesn't have 4 channels. The other thing that you can see in the chart is whether or not, like what type of authority I have, how I am designed to make decisions well in this world. And as a manifestor, there are only a couple of types of authority that you can have. I have the authority of splenic because my spleen is activated. I do not have emotional authority because my emotion center, which is the triangle opposing the spleen over here on the right-hand side, it is not colored in, it's white. And so that means that my emotional center is not defined. Therefore, it's not correct for me to make decisions based on my emotional wave of experiencing things. Rather, it's correct for me to make decisions based on my spleen, which means that I need to be making decisions intuitively as well as instinctively in the moment when I have a knowingness that comes over me that says this is correct for you. And so let's go ahead and move along to the next aspect of the tapestry. So you have to start out with your chart because your chart is what is defining the rest of your tapestry. Now, this is the first activity that I did as part of my tapestry, and it is all about my energy type. So on the previous slide, when I showed you my chart, I told you that I'm a manifestor energy type. And that's because I have my throat defined as well as not having a sacral energy defined. And when I was learning about a manifestor, whether you're a manifestor or another energy type, that's one of the most helpful aspects of human design, is to see how your energy is designed to be used in this world so that you can make the impact that you really want to make and that you were designed to make. And so when I was learning about what a manifestor is, there are a lot of different sources. You can look online, you can buy a book. I recommend some of the books by Karen Curry Parker, especially because her language really resonates with me. But these are just some of the words and descriptors of what it's like to be a manifestor. And so when I did this activity, as well as when I want to reflect on what it means to be a manifestor and whether I'm living authentically in my design, I can always go back to this manifestor page that I chicken scratched out. I'm sure yours will be much prettier. But some of the things that I'd like to highlight are the fact that a manifestor is what you want to call an initiator. Manifestors lead change. Manifestors are here to inform. So the strategy for using my energy type well to remove resistance that I get from the outside world when I need to act is to inform people that will be impacted by the actions I'm about to take, as well as just informing people of their correctness in my space and when I need space from other people. Part of being a manifestor means that I have an aura that other people cannot see behind, that there's a denseness when you meet me that you want to figure me out, but there's really no way for you to do that. Whereas it might be really easy for you to figure out other energy types. And so that creates, anger for me, as well as people who are struggling to understand me. And that's what you call your not self. So another interesting aspect about being a manifestor is that most of us are really not designed to do a 9-to-5. And when somebody when someone disrupts my creative flow, I'm going to respond in anger. And that's actually correct for me, because it's important for me to be able to play out that creative flow. That's part of how I tap into my genius. And if someone is constantly asking me questions and making me explain why I'm doing the things I'm doing, then it's going to naturally make me angry. And the outside world is not very receptive to anger, especially from women. So this has been a huge aha for me and given me permission to express anger in a healthy way and either remove myself from the situation or change the way that I create experiences in the world so that I have more of an opportunity to not be disrupted when I'm in my creative flow. I'm also not here to ask permission. And a lot of people in this world want to require me to ask permission before I do something. Whereas my strategy is really to just inform them that I'm about to do that thing and give them a chance to either get on board or get out of the way. As a manifestor, I have an internal nonverbal creative flow. And that's the part that I was talking about that is so important for me to be able to honor and to not be disrupted by the outside world. Manifestors need 100% freedom. Everybody in this world needs freedom, but across all of the energy types, manifestors truly need 100% freedom in order to not experience anger and not share anger with others. And that's very difficult for a lot of people to understand. But that's part of their journey, not mine. Mine is to make sure that I'm setting myself up to experience freedom. Manifestors also need to talk through experiences. Um, we have short-term energy spurts. Because we don't have that sacral defined, we don't have consistent access to doing energy. So we can come up with a new way of doing something and go through the motions to show the rest of the world what that could look like. But it's not our role to perfect that or to continue doing that for a long period of time. And that's why we don't have access to that consistent energy. We have just enough energy to express our creative urges, get them started, and get them out into the world so that somebody else, like a projector, can go in and start to nitpick at it and make it perfect for all of the rest of the generators and manifesting generators to run with in this world. And then, manifestors, it kind of goes without saying, are not to be controlled and be allowed to experience that freedom and learn to honor our creative flow. So all of the things that I just told you are representations of parts of this piece of paper. There's more in there that I didn't talk about, and there's more also about manifestors that is not on this page. But what I did is I went through and read all about manifestors and listened to podcasts. And I went back to this piece of paper and wrote down different aspects of what it's like to be a manifestor so that I could have my learnings all in one place and be able to reflect on it and be able to tell the story that I just told you to myself. As I continue to learn how to live more authentically as I was designed to live and for the life that I signed up for, that my soul is craving for the rest of my life. So let's continue. This was the energy type. Now, going back to the chart, remember I've got several channels that are defined. Got 1762, 1858. What was the other one? 4426 and 4816. And this piece of paper is an extension of the last slide on what it means to be a manifestor. As human design continues to develop, there are more ways and language that's coming out that makes human design a little more palatable, a little easier to understand. And so these were ones that spoke to me, that a manifestor is also considered a reluctant hero. If you look at Orion Ohev's human design system, as well as an innovator, which I believe is Karen Curry Parker's word for a manifestor. So it's just cool to see, if manifestor doesn't resonate with you or whatever your energy type is, just know that there are other ways to talk about it, to think about it that may resonate with you more. All right, so next we're going to take a deep dive into the channels that I have and the categories they fall into. So this is what I call my rivers and roads exercise. The rivers and roads represent the channels that I have. The black straight-lined rectangles represent the conscious channels that I have, and the red river-like rivers represent the unconscious channels that I have. And if you have, more than 4 defined channels, you might decide to spread this across multiple pieces of paper. But it was also just visceral for me to be able to write this out, to integrate it into my understanding of myself, because that's one of the ways that I like to learn. So, I on the left-hand side, I would put one gate that was defined. On the right-hand side, I would put the second gate that completes the channel. In the middle, I put the name of the channels, and then I did some research about what those channels are, whether or not they're considered individual, tribal, or collective channels, whether or not they're considered manifesting generator, projector, or generator channels. And this kind of serves as like a chart that I can go back to. And, when I'm experiencing resistance from people or the outside world, I can look to see if maybe there's a better way for me to use my gifts and talents that I continuously have access to, so that I can break patterns of big resistance and access patterns of peace, more so. So I'll just run through them real quick. My 5818 channel connects my root to my spleen. It's called the channel of judgment. It feels like perfectionism and wisdom. It means I need to work out extra energy. It's a projected channel that should be used for the benefit of the collective. And gate 58 has the energy of enthusiasm, of like improving patterns, or gluttony when I'm not in alignment, and then gate 18 is known as a gate that embodies desire for wholeness. It can easily be turned against me. I can turn it against myself. And when I'm not aligned, it can feel like insatiable, where it's just like nothing can satisfy that desire for wholeness. And then when I am in alignment, it's an empowering channel. So what I've learned about this is my channel of judgment, because it's projected, means I need to wait for the invitation from the collective to tell the collective what I think it's doing wrong and how it should fix itself. Therefore, when society is out of alignment, I have to wait until someone says, "Oh, Elissa, you are very wise in this area. Tell us what you think about what we as a group should be doing instead." And as long as I wait for that invitation, because it's projected, and I don't direct it at myself or another person, then I will be looked at as embodying wisdom, and other people may even see me as perfect. The next channel is the 1648, and it's the channel of depth. It means that I can show examples, or I can be the sample for things. It looks like natural talent. Looks like I'm good at everything, which I'm not, I guarantee you. And it means it is best expressed when I'm not trying to control things. It connects my spleen to my throat, and it's all about talent and allowing myself to do something over and over and over until I'm really good at it. And then because it's a projected channel also for the collective, I have to wait to be invited to show that talent. Otherwise, I come off as arrogant. And it's also something I should not use on myself. I shouldn't, continually try to make myself better necessarily, but to focus on activities and hobbies and work skills and things like that. And then it's best used with the collective as well. So instead of me knocking on your door saying, "Hey, I'm really good at cooking. Like, you should ask me how to cook things anytime you need to cook them." That's going to sound weird. But if there's like, something that everybody in the collective is doing around cooking, and I wait until someone calls me into that room and says, "Hey, Elissa, I know that you are a fantastic cook. What do you think would be something that we could all cook together?" Then I could answer that and come off as looking like I'm good at everything and like a total natural talent. So you can see the examples of these. I'm not going to go through the rest of them just because I have that many channels, but you can make this your own. I made the rivers the unconscious, and that's because they seem to be a little bit less accessible to me, a little less controlled than a road might be. And this is my rivers and roads activity. So you can dive into your channels however you like. But this helps paint that picture. And then here's my chart again, because again, all of the tapestry is tied back to what shows up in my chart. Now, the next image that I came up with is more of a like summary page of my channels. It's helpful if you can look at your chart as a whole and not just kind of fall into the details as much. So this was a way for me to kind of take a step back after diving into every aspect of each channel and learning about myself overall in terms of the types of defined channels that I have. So I have an interesting chart in that I don't have any individual channels, meaning none of them are best used on myself by me. Whereas there are some people in this world who have all individual channels and they don't have any collective or tribal channels. And that means that they are here to improve themselves and be a role model for the rest of the world on how you can be a great human. That's not my role. My role is to reflect back to the collective what is not working and what is working and what we can do differently going forward as a collective. And that's because 3 of my 4 channels are all collective channels. I do have one channel that's tribal, and that means that it's best to be used with my network, my family, the people I interact with on a regular basis. And then the other thing that's really interesting is although I'm a manifester by my energy type, meaning it's my job to inform people before I act, but I don't really have to wait around for an invitation like projectors do, and I don't have to wait to respond like generators and manifesting generators do. But at the same time, every single one of my channels are projected, which means that I can't just jump out in front of the room and tell everybody how great I am at things and that they have to listen to me. I have to wait until I am invited to share my wisdom and to share my ideas and to share the judgments that I have and the opinions that I have, and to be able to offer the solutions that I know are the correct solutions for all of humanity. And this explains a lot of my frustration in my life up until this point, because I know the answer and nobody wants to listen because I was jumping around in front of the room, yelling at them, telling them that they have to listen. So this has really been empowering for me to see why I haven't been able to get the results that I knew I possibly could previously. The other thing I looked at in my summary of my defined channels is which centers are activated by those channels. And you'll see that 3 of the 4 channels activate my spleen, which speaks to how intuitive I am, how instinctive I should make decisions, and how much fear I may have experienced in my not self, as well as how I can transform that fear into collective wisdom. The other center that has the most activation through my 4 defined channels is my throat. because 2 of the 4 channels that I have activate my throat. And then I have a handful of other centers that are activated by 1 of the channels that I have. So I also have a defined root, a defined heart, and a defined ajna. And each of those are only activated by 1 defined channel in my chart. I also looked at how many of my channels are considered conscious versus unconscious. And I have 2.5 unconscious channels and 1.5 conscious channels. So that means that a lot of the defined channels that I have and a lot of the access to consistent energy in my design happens without me even knowing about it. In fact, more of it happens than I realize. Other people see me as more consistent than I feel. And that also rings true for me as well. So I encourage you to not only dig in on the detail level for what each of your channels are and what they represent, but also to see, what their distribution is across the circuits, whether or not you have individual, tribal, or collective circuit-based channels, as well as the energy type associated with your channels, whether that's a manifestor channel, projector channel, manifesting generator channel, or a generator channel. And whether or not your channels are individual, tribal, or collective, as well as which energy centers are defined by those channels. And then lastly, how many of your channels are considered conscious versus unconscious. All right, so next we're going to get into the specific planetary representations of the gates that are defined in your chart. And we're going to start with the personality, the conscious side, and then we'll end up with the design unconscious gates. Each one of your planets has a particular meaning in your life, and whether or not it's conscious or unconscious means that it'll show up differently for you. This is probably one of the most insightful aspects of human design, but I still maintain that the most helpful part of human design is understanding what your energy type is, your strategy, and your authority for how it is best for you to make decisions in your life to get the biggest impact that you're hoping to make on the world and yourself. But once you kind of get that nailed down, it's a lot of fun to dig into the different aspects that your planets connect with the defined gates on your chart. So the top 2 planets on each side of your conscious as well as your unconscious are going to determine what your incarnation cross is. And your incarnation cross is a lot of different things. I've heard it called your life's purpose, what your soul signed up to do, to accomplish in this life, how your design can be most purposefully applied to your life. But basically what it comes down to is, not necessarily just your job, but a lot of the jobs that you end up having are going to be very directly aligned with what your incarnation cross is, because you can't help it, because your desires automatically move you in that direction, whether or not you're trying to or not. That your personality is just designed to want to do certain things in this life. So mine is based on my conscious sun of 62.2 and my conscious earth of 61.2, as well as my unconscious sun of 42.4 and my unconscious earth at 32.4. The points just indicate the lines in your chart. There are 6 different lines that determine your profile, as well as just another indicator of how that particular activity impacts you and how you would want to use it and how it kind of shows up in your life versus other people who may have the same gate in that same planet, but would be expressing that differently than you. So I won't go too far into it other than to just call out the gates and a couple of descriptors around the incarnation cross gates on my chart. My incarnation cross is called the right angle cross of Maya because it is composed of gate 62 and 61, as well as 42 and 32. So my conscious sun in gate 62 is called the gate of details. And these are like the small details that matter most. It's not necessarily caring about all details and like the perfection of getting things correct down to the detail, but more of a kind of soulful approach to not caring about things except for the small things that matter the most. And this can be expressed in jobs like professional organizing, computer programming, organizational experiments, and it's called energy for the small details that keep the momentum of opinions flowing toward energy. My conscious earth in 61 shows up like, it's called mystery, and it explains why I have things in my life like human design, a spiritual system called diamond approach, my obsession with angels, my obsession with Bigfoot, fairies, the occult, mysteries, and the gate is described as divine knowing, just knowing what is. On my unconscious side, the unconscious gate 42 is called finishing things, which is interesting because as a manifester, I'm a starter of things. So I have a very unique design in that I am the starter and the initiator of things for the collective. And one of the things that I am attracted to doing most unconsciously is finishing things. And that's why I have excelled in a career around project management, consulting, and this gate is described as jumping in the middle and bringing it to completion. So I initiate things for the larger collective, but on the minutia level, I jump into other people's projects in the middle and help bring it to completion. And that's perfect for what I'm doing in my business right now. The fourth gate that appears in my incarnation cross is the gate of 32 in my unconscious earth. And it explains why I'm interested in things like becoming an investor, investing in other people, being a business entrepreneur. It's called the gate of continuity. And that gate is described as the intuitive knowing of which ideas will work out. I can sit in a room and have people go through a series of ideas that they think they want to do, and I can pinpoint the one that will work today. And I didn't realize that the rest of the world couldn't do that. So that's definitely one of my talents, and it's one that I'm not conscious of, but it just flows through me. I can tell you when something's going to work out and when it's not. And that's why, being a business entrepreneur is so powerful for me and why I make it look easy. So the incarnation cross is definitely something worth looking into. and it can help give you direction on kind of your overall life path, as well as kind of capture some or many of the careers that you may have had or may have in the future as you continue to develop yourself and live your life authentically. So next, we're going to get into each individual gate. And like I said, starting on the conscious side, top to bottom, all the way through the unconscious side from your sun to your Pluto. Okay, so on mine, we're looking at the conscious sun, and I have that in gate 62.2, which means it is gate 62 with the hermit line, because 0.2 represents the 2 line, and the 2 is known as the hermit. There are also other names for it, but I'm just using the traditional human design terminology. So the conscious sun means the same thing for everyone. It's just that whatever gate you have and whatever line you have will tell you what it means for you specifically. So for everybody, your conscious sun means your role in life. It's what you're here to put out into the world and share with others. It's also like 70% of the energy that people experience from you. So like your conscious sun and your unconscious sun, just between those two are like people's first impressions of you. So for me, my conscious sun is in gate 62, which is the gate of details, the details that matter the most. And for the I Ching, it's called the preponderance of the small. And the astrological sign that's associated with it is Cancer. So the gate of details, the biology of it connects to your thyroid or your parathyroid. And the gate of details looks like things like organized, speaking truth, wise and careful word choice, asking questions like, what if we did it like this? And clarity. So it means that what I'm here to put out into the world and share with others is the details that matter the most. And I'm going to express it through my hermit line. And that means that I'm going to kind of be in my own space, figuring out what details matter the most, and then waiting for the invitation to be called out to share that information with the collective. The next planet is my conscious Earth, which is gate 61.2, which is also the hermit line. And your conscious Earth represents what grounds you and what you need to feel stable and physically supported in reality. And for me, it's mystery. Mystery is what grounds me and makes me feel stable and connected to the reality, to the consciousness. And I'm not going to read all of these, but it's inner truth for I Ching, Capricorn for astrology, the pineal gland for biology. It means that I'm asking things like why, but I'm also knowing without being able to logically explain why. It's an interest in the occult, things that are beyond understanding. It's like mutative thinking, discovering mysteries, and it's also in the hermit line. And that I'm waiting for the invitation of sharing the mysteries of the universe. Now we're going to get outside of my incarnation cross, because we just covered those top two consciously for the incarnation cross. Now we're going to dig into the other gates. So this like upside down U is what they call the North Node, and it means the life direction after your after the age of 38 and before the age of 43. So kind of like between 38 and 42, this is the theme of in life lessons for the second half of your life. It's the time for breathing out. And so for me, that life direction is opinions. Gate 17.2. You can see I have a lot of hermit gates, which contributes to my experience of feeling very much like needing to hermit to figure out my genius before I'm ready to share it with the collective. And that's definitely true for me. So for the I Ching, it's following. For astrology, it's Aries. The biology is the anterior and posterior pituitary glands. And gate 17, the gate of opinions, is about things like curiosity, things that are not proven yet. It's all about experimenting, using logic, sharing new ideas. And it's also a gate that I have to wait to be asked to share my genius around. And it's about mastery over time through the correction of patterns. So I have these strong opinions because of my mastery of doing things incorrectly over a long period of time. And it's part of the depth of understanding that I bring. And I get to express it more fully past the age of 38, which is music to my ears because I'm approaching that age group. Next, we're going to look at the South Node, which is gate 18.2 for me. And it means where we came from, the theme for the first half of life, pre-Uranus opposition, time for breathing in. So my conscious South Node is the gate of correction, 18.2. And for the I Ching, it's called work on what has been spoiled. The astrology behind it is Libra. Biology is spleen and lymphatic system. It's another hermit gate that I have because of the 0.2. And it shows up in things like accounting, the intuition to make things perfect, saying things like, I told you so. The expression of a lot of fear, being considered the fixer of things, perfecting patterns, intuitive understanding. So it's all about, doing it wrong the first time and having to correct it, and then being able to share that wisdom later. And the first half of my life has definitely been all about not doing it correctly. So that's validating that I was on the right path all along when I was not doing it the way that the outside world seemed to think that it should be done. The next gate is your conscious moon, and it looks like a moon, like a crescent. And it means what drives us. It governs instinct, intuition, and unconscious compulsions, explains why we behave in the ways we do. And for me, that's gate 63.3, which is the gate of doubt. So I'm driven by doubt. I'm driven by people not believing that it's possible, as well as me not believing it was possible at some point previously. For the I Ching, it's after completion. For the astrology, it's Pisces. The biology is the pineal gland. The purpose is to use this energy to correct the expression of information in the world, inspiration for logic, suspicion, demand for proof, suspicious of my own insights and abilities. And it's a line 3, so it's all about the martyr archetype. And it's a direct gate. So I use this doubt directly on data and information, but not on people or myself. So I should not be suspicious of my own insights or abilities, but rather when I'm presented with new information or data or things that people believe are true, my job is to doubt that first until we come to a place of intuitive knowing and understanding that it is actually true or is not true. Now, for the rest of these, I'm going to, for the sake of time, just tell you what the purpose of that planet is and the gate that it is for me, as well as what that gate is called. So, for the conscious Mercury, which is the stick person with the little antenna, the purpose or the association of this planet on your chart describes what we are here to communicate, the things we're here to share with others, and our preferred style of communication. And for me, it's gate 52.4, 4 representing the opportunist, and gate 52 means stillness. So I'm here to communicate stillness, and I'm here to communicate stillness with others, and it's my preferred style of communication to be still and also explain the philosophy of stillness and the value that it brings to the world. The next gate and planet association is Venus. So my conscious Venus represents what we value around themes of love and our needs and ideals in relationships. So for me, that is gate 39.2, which is the gate of provocation. So what I value in terms of love and my needs and ideals in relationships is people that are provoking. And I had a lot of fun researching this one, so I am going to tell you a little bit about it. Whereas, like, it shows up for me as like very passionate, musical, creative, people with like a really rich energy, people that are deeply emotional, like being able to embrace provoking people is a unique thing, and it's actually something I crave. So it's like gracefully calling people on their bad choices, being able to teach people, as well as being able to receive that energy from other people. It explains why I have an obsession with helping like hoarders through my professional organizing business. It also explains why I have like an overflowing pantry, like a need to just like provoke abundance into my life. But at the same time, I'm also like a bargain hunter and a thrifter. It's a very interesting energy. Next, we have the conscious Mars. So that's the circle with the little arrow coming out the top right-hand corner. And your conscious Mars represents what moves us and motivates us, what can manifest as immaturity until lessons have been learned or heeded. For me, this is in gate 31.4, which is the gate of leadership and democracy. And the line associated with it is line 4 for opportunist. So what motivates me and can manifest as immaturity until lessons have been learned is leadership and democracy. And that definitely speaks true to me. Next, we have the conscious Jupiter, which looks like the number 4, and it represents our gifts and blessings, where we experience and expansion if we follow the strategy and authority for the human design type in order to make correct decisions. So for me, that is, let me go back. So for me, my gifts and blessings are gate 3.2, and that is called the gate of ordering. So I experience expansion when I follow my strategy and authority around how to order things in my life and how to order things for other people, how to order things in their business, in their relationships, in my business, in my relationships, it's all about order. How do we create that order? And what is the correct way to do it? It's through being in alignment with who we truly are. And that's what I teach. So that's no surprise either. The next planet is the conscious Saturn, and that's the one that looks like an H with a curly Q on the end and a cross at the top. And it represents your inner rules, perceived limitations, boundaries, life lessons, and keys to growing up. For me, that's gate 5.5, which is the gate of patterns and rituals. And this is my conscious Saturn. So the keys to growing up are recognizing my own patterns, learning to improve those patterns, and then teaching others how to do that. And that's also what I do. Next, we have the conscious Uranus. And that is the funky symbol that looks like a cross in the center with a ball on the bottom and the wings out to the side. It represents your individuality, humanitarian aspects, revolution, where you stand out and shine. And for me, that's ideas, gate 11.2, also a hermit gate for me. The next planet is the conscious Neptune. That is the 3 arrows pointing upward on a cross, and it represents your intuition, dreams, mysticism, addictions, and spiritual genius. And for me, that's gate 58.3, which is the gate of joy. So my intuition is around what is most joyful. My dreams are about my joys, as well as how to achieve more joy in my life. My mysticism is definitely focused around the purpose of life, which I believe is joy, and bringing joy to other people. When I have not experienced joy in my life, I was trying to recreate it through the addictions that I had, and my spiritual genius and the messages that just flow out of me come out with joy about joy. So yes, this is true for me as well. Next, we have the conscious Pluto, which looks like the letter P standing on the ground, I guess. And it represents how you grow and evolve, transformation, hard truths, transmutation, death, rebirth, and realizations. And for me, that's gate 28.6. It's the first line 6 that I think I have in my chart. And gate 28 is the gate of struggle. So how I grow and evolve, how I transform, how I deal with hard truths, how I transmute myself and my creative works in the world, how I deal with death and rebirth, and how I come to realizations is through struggle, which unfortunately is also definitely true. I'm learning to embrace that one a little bit more, but every time I've really struggled in my life, it's because I was going through a major transformation, a new understanding about myself, letting go and like killing a part of my old life, killing a part of myself that's no longer serving me, cutting myself off from groups of people that are no longer serving me. And it has always been through great struggle. Now we're getting into the unconscious side of my chart. So the things I just talked about are things that I definitely know about myself. Like I said, that's definitely true. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Whereas these unconscious sides of me are things that I can only learn about myself through experiencing a reflection of how other people experience me. So either by them telling me these things about their interactions with me, or by their energetic reflections of either receiving it well from me and just being like, oh my God, I love doing this with you because it's just fabulous for these reasons. Or on the other side, for them, never wanting to do that with me again. Whereas I don't understand why they seem to think it didn't go so well. So starting out with my unconscious sun, again, the conscious and the unconscious side just tells you whether or not it is something that you know about yourself and that you're conscious about doing. But the planetary associations are the same. So you will recognize these, and you don't actually have to watch all of the rest of this video. If you already noted what those planetary meanings are on the conscious side, because they're the same on the unconscious side. And so you can just dive into your research that way. I will just drop in a quick reminder that if you do want to connect with me to get a very basic human design reading for $99 for 1 hour, you can go to my website at organizinggnomes.com. That's organizing gnomes, like the little creatures with the hats, .com. Okay, so let's continue. My unconscious sun represents my role in life that I'm not aware of, what I am here to put out into the world and share with others. And so for me, that's gate 42.4, and gate 42 is the gate of finishing things. So other people see my role in life as finishing things. The next planet is my unconscious earth, which represents what grounds me, what I need to feel stable and physically supported in reality. So what other people see that I need as a grounding force is gate 32.4, which is the gate of continuity. Next, we're getting into the unconscious north node. And again, the north node represents your life direction between the ages of 38 and 42. The theme and lessons for the second half of life and the time for breathing out. For me, that's gate 21. And that gate is called the treasurer. So other people see me at this point in my life, I'm almost 38, between 38 and 42, as well as just the lessons for the second half of life, as the treasurer. And that's exciting for me, because it is something I feel like I've honed in on as a skill throughout my life, is how to work with resources and generate the resources that you need for projects, and then how to steward those resources so that you can make the biggest impact, not only on your own life, but on other people's lives as well as the collective. And you can see that the further I go, the crazier my chicken scratch gets, because I was in mad genius scribble mode, which is real for me. Next, we have the unconscious south node, and it represents where we came from, the first half of our life themes, the time for breathing in, and that for me is gate 48.3, and it's all about, the gate is called the gate of depth. And just like I said, my earlier in life, I dredged and trudged through the mud of how to work with resources in this world, and have not only pretty much perfected it for myself at this point, but also recognizing that every single person is different and they all have their own individual ways of creating wealth and having access to resources, as well as managing those resources for themselves, their personal lives, their family, projects they're working on, as well as the overall collective. So although this is on my unconscious side, it is becoming conscious now that I have moved out of, nearly moved out of my South Node. This one I got really wild on. And the unconscious moon is the next planet. For me, it's gate 50.1, and it is the gate of values. It's all about what drives us, what governs instinct, intuitions, what governs instinct, intuition, and unconscious compulsions, explains why we behave the way we do. And for me, it's all about values. That's interesting because I wouldn't be able to communicate that to you, but when you tell me that, other people have seen me as someone who, maintains the values of the group, who reminds people of what matters most, that it's not just all about making money in this world, but it's about the relationships that we have and what the impact of our decisions make on ourselves, our families, our tribes, the collective, the planet, all of those things. Next, we have unconscious Mercury. And for me, that's in gate 25.5. Gate 25 represents the love of spirit. And the unconscious Mercury is all about what we're here to communicate, the things that we're here to share with others, and our preferred style of communication. So I love talking about our connection to source, God, spirit, angels, the universe, and, the way that I prefer to do it is through the essence of who I am versus preaching it to people so that they can see spirit embodied in me in everything that I do. Pure love. That's all you need to know. We're nearly there. We're 3/4 of the way there, guys. Next, we have the unconscious Venus. And remember, Venus is all about what we value, the things of love, and our needs and ideals in relationships. So for me, that's gate 22.4. Gate 22 is about openness. So unconsciously, I seek people who are open and people who accept my openness. I need to have openness and transparency in my relationships. And it's ideal for me to have no walls and just complete openness with others. I need to be able to say whatever it is I want to say without feeling judgment. And that comes off as authenticity to other people. And it explains a lot of my success in fundraising and sales. I'm kind of like the calm within the storm. Next, we have the unconscious Mars. Mars is all about what moves us, what motivates us, can manifest as immaturity until lessons have been learned or heeded. And for me, that's gate 16.1, which is skills. So the thing that moves me and motivates me is knowing that I am skilled in that area. But I have believed that I was skilled in things that I'm not skilled in a lot when I was younger because I was still learning the lessons around how to develop your skills appropriately and which skills are good for me as a human, which is not necessarily the same skills that might be good for somebody else. So that was a tough lesson for me in life, and I'm not surprised that this is unconscious because I did not know it at the time. But it also explains why I am obsessed with learning new things while not necessarily being attached to how it is that I'm going to use that new thing that I just learned. Next, we have the unconscious Jupiter. Jupiter is all about our gifts and blessings, where we experience an expansion if we follow the strategy and authority for our human design type in order to make a correct decision. For me, it's gate 21.1, which is the treasurer again. So, I've got the gifts and blessings where I can expand if I'm following the correct strategy and authority. So as long as I'm informing people along the way and making decisions that are intuitive and instinctual, I can experience expansion as the treasurer of my life and the collective, which is pretty exciting. It is a gate that's projected, so I have to wait to be recognized in this. But it gets to manifest into things like business executive, being business oriented. Um, you know, it's vital for sustainable abundance. And it's all about not controlling other people or controlling my outside environment or living in fear or scarcity, but rather embracing abundance and making those intuitive, instinctive decisions that I may not be able to explain all of the time. But when you reflect on how the last time I made that decision, you see that it works out not only for me, but for everybody else involved. Next, we have the unconscious Saturn. And Saturn represents our inner rules, perceived limitations, boundaries, life lessons, and keys to growing. And for me, that's gate 26.5. Gate 26 is the gate of the trickster, and it's also interpreted as the sacred salesperson. So my inner rules, my perceived limitations and boundaries, life lessons, and keys to growing up are all about being that sacred salesperson. Next, we have unconscious Uranus. Uranus is all about your individuality, humanitarian aspects, revolution, where you stand out and shine. And for me, that's gate 11.5. Gate 11 is the gate of ideas. So my individuality, humanitarian aspects, revolution, where I stand out and shine, some of my greatest contributions are through the ideas that I come up with and share with others. Some of them are my ideas for executing my own creative urges as a manifester, but many of them are ideas for you and my tribe and my collective. And although this is unconscious, I do have ideas on my conscious side. And so this just reinforces what I know about that part of myself around ideas, as well as helps other people see me as a natural guide and teacher for ideas that are great for them. Similar to how my last planetary symbol around Uranus is the same gate on each my conscious and my unconscious side, gate 11. I have the same thing going on with my Neptune. So my unconscious Neptune is gate 58, and so is my conscious Neptune. So Neptune is all about your intuition, dreams, mysticism, addictions, and spiritual genius. And again, like I said before, gate 58 is the gate of joy. So it's all about optimizing all aspects of life, enhancing quality of life, pushing the status quo to be more joyful, driving for improvement, seeking to perfect, pushing toward perfection. It's all about the pure joy of being alive. And that's what I am intuitive about. It's what I dream about. It's what I connect with on a mystic level. It's what I was trying to achieve through my addictions. And it's the spiritual genius that I have to bring to the world. So not only do I know that on the conscious side, but it's also how other people experience those parts of me as well. And lastly, we have the unconscious Pluto. Pluto, again, is all about how you grow and evolve, transformation, hard truths, transmutation, death, rebirth, and realizations. And for me, this is gate 44.2. Gate 44 is the gate of energy and vigilance. This means that I unconsciously grow and evolve through and experiencing hard truths, you know, killing off parts of myself that are no longer serving me, you know, being reborn into the more authentic version of myself. And it's all about, you know, whether the past is worth repeating, knowing the material needs of others, basically greasing that runway for influence, sales, and deals. It's like selling messages from the past to the tribe. You know, it's something I'm not aware of. So I don't speak to these unconscious things as much. But this is how other people see me growing. And it's definitely part of the like entrepreneurial spirit that I have. And, you know, connected to like being the greeter and, you know, making things look good and, you know, that part of the sales cycle. So it's definitely connected to, you know, the value around why somebody would want to buy something. Okay, so that completes the gates on my personality conscious side as well as the design unconscious side. We've talked about what your energy type is, and how you can research what your energy type is and then, you know, create your own chart page around what your energy type means for you based on the research you're doing. We talked about looking at the various defined channels that you have on your human design chart, and in detail, like what each one is, the gates that create them, the centers that are defined as a result of that gate being defined, that channel being defined. And then we also talked about creating a sheet where you kind of take a step back and you look at the summary of what your channels are and what circuits they fall into, whether or not they're considered, you know, which circuits, whether how they like to be used, you know, what energy type they're associated with, even if it's not the same energy type that you are, and, you know, whether or not they're conscious or unconscious. And then we took a brief look at your incarnation cross and how that's created as a result of your most powerful planetary placements in your chart, of your sun and earth placements on your conscious and unconscious side. And then we also took a deep dive into each planetary orientation and the affiliated gate and line that you have for that and what that means for you in your chart. And I hope that this exercise has been informative and empowering for you to be able to take what looks like a gobbledygook chart from any one of these human design chart websites that will generate your chart for free and empower you to learn more about yourself on your own journey, either after you've had a human design reading from someone or before you are ready to do your next one. And if you're interested in connecting with me further for a super introductory reading of your human design chart, where we can talk about what your energy type is, the correct way for you to make decisions based on your being authentic with your personal individualized design, as well as some of the channels that are defined in your chart. You can go to my website, organizinggnomes.com, click on the personal tab for personal services, and you'll see I have some inspiration consultations in there as well as home organizing consultations, and even a human design consultation, all for $99 for an hour. And if you're really interested in digging in deep with me, you can go over to the business services tab or the business class that I am offering currently and learn more about what I have to offer there as well. It has been my absolute pleasure to share these insights with you and open my chart up to the world, for all of you to learn more about me and experience me from the side of my human design chart. So thank you again for your time today. And I'd love to hear your feedback about anything new that you may have learned as part of this video, whether or not you are going to create your own human design chart tapestry. And I'd love to see some examples of tapestries that get created as well. That's it for now, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.